Hello! Welcome to Gen Z Meets World podcast.
I am Aisha.
I'm Ahmed, and today we'll be talking about communities and like the sense of community and communities.
And if we were to look at the definition of community on the Oxford dictionary, like one of the dictionaries on that we have, but then like Oxford dictionary is one of the dictionaries we always refer to for English definitions. It says that community is a group of people living in the same place, or a group of people who have like similar interests. It says here a particular characteristic in common, which means that it can be a particular characteristic, and oftentimes it is like an interest. It can also be actually like just characteristic, like for example a community of people of a certain race or ethnic
Demographic.
Religion, like it can be that's also like a community of people. But then oftentimes when we're talking about community, it's like more to like similar interests rather than
That's the most common version, at least.
And then there's like the community or group of people, which is usually like, if you want an example of that, it should be like a neighborhood or like a country,
which I feel like actually it's kind of like goes back to the same definition somewhat, because they still share the same thing. It's something similar in common.
It is a characteristic, which is like they live in the same place. So that's probably like the definition. And then there's also like the sense of community. And like a community, in any kinds of community, the many different types of community, there is that sense of community, that kind
within the people of the community, members of the community.
Yeah. So there is that sense, like that bond, which is kind of like what creates the community. Like, because
without that bond, they're not,
they're just people living together. They're just people living together. They are not like, I do not know whether like by definition they would, whether or not they would still be translated as defined as a community.
But at least it doesn't feel like a community when you don't know each other, when you do not have anything to like feel together. Then it feels less like a community.
It doesn't feel like a community.
It's just these bunch of random people in the place.
Yeah. So one of like, if we were to like think of like communities, you often think of neighborhoods.
That's the closest you could find. Where you live.
For me, well, that's up to interpretation, but it's like the easiest example that you can find usually, because when you think of community, you think of people living together, you think of a neighborhood, and you refer back to your neighborhood. So like our neighborhood definitely still has that sense of community, I think. Like we would often for example, like if there's something that happens, we would all as a community
work
having
together.
That sense of community together communicate to help the community. So like, but I remember one case in particular when there was a thunderstorm, and then because of that thunderstorm, a tree fell down and blocked the road.
It was basically in front of our house, just a bit to the right.
Yeah. Not exactly in front of our house, but it was the road in front of our house. So it blocked the road, and then one of our neighbors noticed it, and then I can't remember, they called the other, I think it was something like that. And then we like call. Everyone called each other, and then like they all went out of the house. Like no one told the other to go out of the house, but everyone, not like everyone, but a number of people went out. Like in our case, our father went out. They went out with like saws and all that to like
break
cut
they break the tree down into pieces and bring them.
Not break, cut.
Cut, yes. Cut the tree into pieces and put it aside.
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to bring the entire tree.
And the tree was like stuck to the trunk. Yeah. And to cut at that point is like a bit hard. So like but then like everyone coming together to do that, and everyone like spending that much time with each other, kind of like creates that stronger bond and that sense of community in a community. And it's like what builds the neighborhood closer, makes the neighborhood grow closer. And also we can see like during like Ramadan or Eid, where we like share food with each other, even not during Ramadan or Eid,
I mean,
but then
we just exchange foods.
But then like it definitely is more often like because there's like sort of like an event, and you're like sharing with like certain kind of like spirit. And that also makes the neighborhood, grow closer. And in fact, I'd say that is one advantage of like COVID, Like, I mean, silver lining.
Silver lining, yeah.
A silver lining where, like, because, like, you are concerned about yourself and you, like, start thinking about, like, your neighbor.
Other people, yeah.
And then, you know, like, and then the neighbors who are doing better tries to help out the neighbors who are doing less fortunate. Yeah. So, you know,
less fortunate.
Yeah. So, like, everyone's helping around. That builds that sense of community. So yeah, so you know, that's like in the sense of like neighborhood. But then like I like to define it as like a physical community, because there is also the other kind of community, which is like in line of the similar interest community, which is like, but then it exists on like a virtual space. Because like with the advancements and like innovation of like technology, people can now like people can commute from one place to another easily, and so they could build that similar interest community easier. Like you can like gather if you're like art people, you can gather at some art gallery and get together. And you know, like remember when we were younger, we often like our father would bring us to like art galleries.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And then usually when we go to the art galleries, it's like for a book launch, because we're like, you know, more into like books. But then like the people who would go to that book launch would be like book people.
Yeah.
So like, you know,
and we're
that is like
each other again.
Yeah. So we have that sense of
books. And they came from like all over from other states.
And it's only possible because of like advancement of technology. I mean, yeah, once upon a time, some people may have traveled far, you know, but it's not as easy. And so like,
I mean, just to go for this thing, which happens, I wouldn't say it happens too often, but then it happens many times. It can happen quite often,
depending on how active you are.
Yeah.
You know?
So you're not going to, you know, I don't know, go on all those old vehicles through
because
all without any roads.
One is like vehicle, the other is just walking.
Yeah, they're just walking. Yeah.
So, but then also like advancement of technology, like you have mobile phones and computers, and that also. It's like sort of like instead of like you don't need to even commute from one physical place to another. You just have to commute from one virtual space to another,
which
and
you could do from either your home
because
or anywhere
this is the vehicle,
you are. Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So that time you need traveling is the time you need
loading
looking
the
up.
page.
Yeah, exactly.
And going to like, you know, where's this this place? Okay, there it is. And waiting for that to load.
That also creates like, you know, that sense of community, and that's like a community that was not possible once upon a time. Like it makes like before this, that having vehicle and being able to commute to a place like already has created like, because like otherwise, you know, you just be in your community. It's true that people would be more prone to live together at one place when you have a similar something. You know, there has to be a similar
background, similar, you know, demographic. That's typical.
Or even if you are like a little bit different, like you don't have much of a similarity, you would be somewhat of an outcast. All of these other people would be together, you know, like sorry for that one guy, but then like, you know, it's not like
and eventually those, generally speaking, they will assimilate, and eventually true. Like especially for a lot of communities, the other people will like welcome that one strange person, and
some
like try to
some communities don't
true but there's a lot of cases where they would like, you know, try to help them feel at home.
I think what I mean, in an idealistic world, yes, but then there are some places, you know, where people don't. True. But I think yes, it is true that in general, definitely Malays, that's like a culture where you just welcome people
who came.
So that kind of like was like, you know, the community once upon a time. Like it's true that you have a certain kind of interest, but now like you can specifically look for a certain community with a certain characteristic. Like you can
across borders.
Once upon a time, like after like the advancement of technology that made it easier for you to commute, it was easier for you to get to places with similar interests. But now you can, it's like you can even fine tune it, like a specific interest with a specific group of age and a specific whatever,
because it's quite hard for someone from, you know, let's say in the middle of South Africa to commute to somewhere in North Russia. I mean,
except if they are very rich and they have private planes. But yeah, so it like breaks borders. Like, you can, and it's like across cultures. Like once upon a time, you have in a country people from different backgrounds. Now it's like all over the world, where you don't even change to like live in one place, because when you live in one place, when you move over to a certain place, you tend to assimilate. Not everyone does, but but it's like what you should do.
It's what you should
move somewhere. Like not like necessarily have to get rid of your whole identity, but
like
the whole do what the Romans do.
Do what the Romans do, yes.
So but then now when you're like, in this virtual community, you are still in your country with your own cultural stuff, so like that kind of like meeting is like something that you don't often find. And at some places, physically, it is harder for you to find a group people of the same interest, of a certain interest. Certain interests, then it might be hard for you to find people who are interested in certain things, particular things, in that group. And then now with like technology, you can just like look it up, and then you can find them or not. But
sometimes it's still hard.
There's that possibility. So that's like, I'd say like a very high advantage, and so like you have people who don't feel so like cast out, because you have
people who actually share the same interest, rather than you're kind of like this. Well, people don't. It doesn't necessarily be that people say that you're weird, but then you feel weirded out when nobody shares the same interest as you do. So this opens to a lot more,
possibilities. And all that. So, but then there is, for me at least, there is one disadvantage of that, in the sense that, there's a few disadvantage, but then like, there's like one thing that's like, with that ease, you tend to ignore, like, because like with that ease, and it feels so good to be in the space where you feel like it's your home, regardless of whether or not it is, because like the thing is that when you choose to be there, and when you feel like you made that choice and decision, and when you feel like this is, because I think there is this study by the University of California, I think, where they said that something around the lines of, when there is this virtual space when you're in together, it is this like place where you can go to immediately, and sort of like without any sort of like third party kind of interference, like you can be freely yourself, and like with that sense of anonymity, because there is, even if you post your picture, like your profile picture is your face, there is still a sense of anonymity when you're
if you just post a picture of your face, nobody will actually know your name. That's
even if you have your name, like even if you're being the thing is that even if you're being transparent, you still there is still a sense of anonymity, because you don't actually see them when you're interacting. And when you are like just typing and then sending, it doesn't feel, you may feel like it is,
even if you're like on a voice chat, there's still that barrier.
You may feel like it is. The thing is that some people feel like, there isn't any barrier. You feel like this is home, this is the communication. But our human nature responses does detect that it is not, the exact communication. And so there is this one study which I have been trying to find before we recorded this, but I couldn't find it. They did it on a sample of like people
who try to put it in the description, hopefully.
If I can find it.
If you can find it.
Who use like specifically they tested it on Facebook, that even though they feel like they are communicating, but then their body doesn't, it's sort of like when the concept of like motion sickness. Where sort of like you get confused, and so you feel like there's an interaction when actually there isn't, and that may lead to, not necessarily, but it may lead to things like loneliness and of depression and stuff like that. And actually, I think a lot of us now can agree to that, because of like after COVID happened.
Hello.
Assalamualaikum, good morning, and well, you don't say Ramadan Mubarak anymore.
Yeah,
But hello, and good morning, and
welcome to our live podcast.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's
Episode
been
2.
a week.
Yeah, been a week
of fasting. Like week for Ramadan.
Yeah.
So, which means that we fasted for a week. It's 8th Ramadan today. And how was your fasting journey? Yeah.
Because for me, it is like interesting because it's honestly this year it feels longer than it has been. Like I feel like I feel like I've been fasting for longer.
It feels like the time has been passing by slower.
So I could do more things, which is good. It's really cool because it feels like all the things that are going on. It's like taking it's nice time.
Like a nice pacing.
Yeah, like a nice pacing.
I mean, it's all okay. Let's say something though. Like I'm not sure. Like this year, I'm not sure if it is exactly the same every year, but then I feel like oftentimes it feels like it's been like Ramadan for so long and so nice, and you're like, this is like how your days are like, and then suddenly it ends and you're like, what happened? And it's gone too soon.
The biggest difference for me since I was small, since I was younger, I'm like, the thing that strikes me the most is that suddenly you have to have lunch. Lunch is not supposed to exist. It takes a while to get used to not having lunch.
Walaikum salam, Anissa. That's good. That is great because if it's not great, then it's not great. Yeah. I mean, it can be very bad for some people who are less fortunate and etc. Which I think is one of the my favorite. I hope your favorite too. My favorite parts. Hopefully our favorite part of like Ramadan is how you can see like everyone helping out each other, like coming together. It's like probably one of the most unifying and unified moments of throughout the whole year. During Ramadan, you see communities helping each other out. You see neighborhoods,
irrespective of the demographics. We're going all the way from age to like classes to culture.
Yeah,
you're all just helping each other out on the basis of not just humanity, but like, you feel together. You feel one.
Yes.
It's not like helping out the humans. You feel that they are you too. So it's less of humanity, but then you're just.
Well, it's still human. That is an aspect of humanity.
But like most people see humanity as like just simply.
Do they?
That's how it's put, at least. I think it seems to be.
Do they? What's your research to back this up? But yeah, yes. Because like, I mean, you see, like. It's true that it's sad that during non-Ramadan days, you a lot of people don't get as much help and etc. But then it's nice. It's really nice that during Ramadan they are, like really like together and helping each other out and all that, which is really nice.
Assalamualaikum from Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh from Iswaj Hisham.
I think that's
Kak Wahida.
Yeah. Waalaikumsalam. It's nice to see you too.
It's nice to see you too.
Yes. So yeah. During Ramadan, yes. So everyone coming together as one, and like you can see it prominently from. I'm not sure if like every place is like that, but then like in our community, definitely the neighbors will all like share food with each other. Like we would like give food for iftar and all that. And it's like that really nice unified moment, which is like really really nice. And you can see at the surah or the mosque, like a lot of people would be going to the mosque and all that, and then also okay, yeah. So So sorry.
So sorry.
Oh, yes, it is Kak Wahida.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So yes.
Sorry for the distraction.
Okay, so yes, so you see at the mosque, like a lot of, like, you see it being so how do you see it? Like everyone would be attending it, you know.
Yeah.
And there's so many people, then everyone greet each other, and like, you know, it's like really, really.
Everyone's just being nice to each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like quite rare. Unfortunately, quite rare these days.
Yeah. So you see that very unified and together moment, and everyone helping each other out, and everyone greeting each other, and you know, just meeting with each other, and etc. And then during like Tarawih, and then after Tarawih you have More, when we eat after like our Tarawih prayers. You see everyone, like, you know, just having like a nice socializing moment, and everyone will get to know each other, and that's just like really, really beautiful. And in fact, to be honest, during the iftar and More at the mosque, that is also like the community, because like
not just during the iftar, but like before that, the preamble, I would say, sort of, when you're cooking for the food.
Yeah, exactly.
Because generally, you'll be cooking the food together.
Yes.
In Malay, we call it gotong royong.
Yeah.
So that act of cooking together, it's like the whole community
working
together
at the same time. It's like a teamwork.
It's such an amazing thing that, you know, rarely occurs any
what
other
is
time.
so beautiful about gotong royong is that you see so many traditions that's like, you know, being blown away as time passes by, you know. But gotong royong is something that we still
stuck to us.
Yeah, that's which is really beautiful, because gotong royong is not just about working together, but it also speaks about our culture and our value.
Yes.
You know, that
value of togetherness, the whole
understanding that we are all like essentially one, sort of like you know, like brothers and sisters in Islam and all that, you know. So like, which actually I think it was a hadith. I'm so sorry, I'm supposed to like remember the hadith, like who narrated it, but then I can't for the life of me remember. I just remember that I learned it during our hadith class the other day. But then there was this hadith, I think it was a hadith, about how you are supposed to sort of like feel your neighbor, feel the like your neighbor's pain or joy, even like as if it is your own, you know. So that
back to the same
conclusion of like, you know, like feeling as if that, so like that you know, speaks of like that value in gotong royong, and then that's like really nice. And in fact, these days sometimes when we don't cook together, like we would buy the food, or
and
you know,
contribute to the cooking together, you know.
No, not cooking, preparing.
Yeah.
Like not ingredients, like, it's like a potluck. Yeah, and everyone would, you know, like contribute some, and that's really nice.
And then you'll eat together in the end, which is what was a bit you know, disappointing once when COVID hit, because we weren't able to do that. But fortunately, to a limited point, we were able to, you know, some selected few amount of people were able to cook together. So there was that part, and they would give it out to the whole village, which was really nice, because you know, at least there's something.
Yes.
And then, you know, we as individuals are able to cook from home and give out to people,
our neighbors.
I mean, throughout COVID, the 2 years specifically, like 2020 and 2021, I think it was the year that people received most food at home.
Definitely,
we were just
our
like
neighborhood,
running all around the neighborhood giving food, and at the same time people are coming at the house.
I remember that one day when we were like, it was like raining. And then we were like, okay, we're going to go out and give the food now. And our mother's like, it's raining. Why are you going out in the rain? Oh, we have an umbrella. And our mother's like, no one goes out in the rain to get food. Honestly, just wait until tomorrow. We're like, it's okay. And we went out to like get food all around. And then our neighbors came with umbrellas.
Like some of them on the motorcycle with an
umbrella balancing the food.
All sorts of foods to give to many people. So like,
and
giving
our
this
mother's
food.
like, what is wrong with these people? Why are they giving food in the rain? And some of the neighbors were like, why are you in the rain?
Yeah. While they were giving food in the rain.
So you know, like that is like really nice. And in fact, one of the things that I love about like our place, we have like the mosque, the surau, where sometimes they would cook bubur lampuk, but then sometimes there are also days when like there's this our surau is like at the flat, and there is this like a small restaurant at the flat. They call themselves a cafe, which is like a very nice branding. So like there's this like, you know, restaurant or cafe, and the person, the cook, who's like the owner of the stall, a food stall, but it's like restaurant. It's like a small restaurant, because it's like a flat, you know. But it sells a lot of food. So she sells a lot of food, you know, like a lot. So she would, during like Ramadan, she will cook bubur lampuk. Like if the surau is not cooking lampuk, she will cook bubur lampuk. I'm not exactly sure what goes on. Maybe like they plan, like, okay, today I can't cook, so you can cook. Okay, today I cook. You know, like maybe there's a plan behind it. I don't know. But then the thing is that after people have from their asar prayers, they will all go to the cafe and get their bubur lampuk.
And they sometimes give not just bubur lampuk, but
other food as well.
Food. And sometimes it's not from her. It's from other people who, you know, you want to give out these foods.
Because so like, they want to give out food, but then it's like hard to like, you know, go to each house. So they're like, so they
place it there, and so people can take it for free. It's really, I really like that part.
Yeah, it again shows how much you can do if you are collectively working together. You know,
it brings back to if we could do it every day. Outside of Ramadan, then.
But I mean, at least it's there during Ramadan. You know, it's even if it doesn't last long. When it happens, it's nice.
It's like, you know, Earth Hour. You know, you do it one day throughout the whole year.
1 hour.
For 1 hour, 1 hour throughout the whole year.
And technically, you feel like it's so minuscule, and mathematically perhaps there's no effect.
In the first place, you're doing it. And then sometimes it creates awareness. A lot. I mean, that's the purpose, to create awareness. And so in the case of Ramadan, we could also use that. And I think it does work. A lot of people do get
into one of our neighbors. I feel like we got close to him after like Ramadan, and we were like, because like, okay, that neighbor, this is one house which there was this pair of people. What do you call that? Like a married couple, you know? They're very old. Like they were our parents, older than our parents.
Like far older.
Yeah, they've both passed away. So you know, they have children. And then eventually the children marries, you know, in the sister, and then they're still living in that house. Or sometimes they live somewhere else and they come along. So he was one of the ones who didn't live in that house, and so we didn't know him as much. But then eventually he moved in. I think after their parents passed away.
I think.
Or was it after the father passed away?
I think after the father passed away.
Right. So he moved into the house. So we didn't know him that well. But then I think it was during Ramadan when we were like, always sharing food, and then eventually, especially on like Eid, I think, during the Takbir Raya, which at our place we would go from house to house. Well, not me, but then they, you know, would go from like house to house. They would like, the surah would open to anyone who wants to join in the Takbir Raya, and so you just sign up.
So they would be separated into groups and covering different corners of the neighborhood,
the wide neighborhood. So he participated
like there's
in
like
that.
8 groups going there throughout the whole night. So imagine that's like very large.
So they're going from like house to house to any house who wants to, you know, open. And some of them like do not participate, but then they open their house for it, and they serve some food and they give duit raya to the children, and you know, it's like part of that unified moment. So that neighbor, like you really got to know him during that time, and also his children, which is like who are about your age, a bit younger, but you know, about your age. And then since from that, you know, we started getting closer, and then we, you know, are stronger, like closer family. Neighborhood. Essentially sometimes you feel like a large extended family, you know. So that is like, you know, the very beautiful part about Ramadan and like getting together, which talks about like closing the gap of like differences, you know, the many things that separates us, that divides us. It's cool. I mean, I guess again, you know, even if it isn't what do you call it, like still done during the Ramadan, like after Ramadan you kind of
maintained.
Like, at least it can actually spread the awareness to,
and it does
people.
Because people look forward to Ramadan. So if you know, a lot of times they're like thinking what they could do to make it feel like Ramadan still, so they will look for the things that they do
exactly.
during Ramadan. And well, these are the things that they could do. I think that's why, like, at least the few months after Ramadan, a lot of people will give out food still. So
would still give out food. So that's true. And
because it's like you're already used to that culture that not just culture, but like practice,
yes.
So it makes it, you know, if we could go make it back to the point, if we could make it further, we could extend that and extend it to 11 months more, then it will be the entire year. That's the really cool idea.
I think maybe that's it. Like during Ramadan, you really feel each other's life journey. You know, you relate, you feel how close and how similar you are despite the differences. You know, like there are things that differentiates us, you know, as people, and it is. I mean, the thing is that it is not like, because some people feel like, you know, we need to like get rid of all of these differences that, you know, differentiates us. But then there are some things that really does differentiate us, and you know, it's not about. For me, it's not about really getting rid of all of that social standing and etc. But rather to understand that despite that, we are all one ummah.
Yes,
that's the word we've been looking for. You know, like we are all together. We are all in the same place.
I'm very sorry. I'm got a bit of a
allergy
this morning.
Hope you get better.
Thank you.
So that, you know, like is like part of that, I think. And then in the sense of like family, you have a lot of like extended family. Or even like friends of your family actually. Like we were that's you know what, that actually comes with like upbringing. Our parents have always brought us up to like during Ramadan, part of like Ramadan, we like, you know, like as a community, like that's why our mother like cooks food and shares the food, and then our father would go and buy bubur lambo and would like give out bubur lambo
everywhere.
When we were younger, when our father was alive, that's how much younger we were, you know, like 5 years ago.
4 years ago.
So our father would like buy a like he would list down all of like friends and workmates and relatives who are close by.
Just anyone, you know, basically.
And to this list, and then we would like list down how many packs of bubur lambo to give to this person,
because you know their family are big, so we need to buy more packs.
Or sometimes they love them, so we give them extra. Or sometimes they don't really like them as much, but then it's a nice Ramadan thing, so we just give them one pack. So you know, like we list that down, and then we would go to the Kasham bubur lambo, Kasham Kamu Baru, which you wrote an article about in the and everything. And then we would like buy like a you know, all of that listed down amount. It would like fill in like a gigantic plastic container, sometimes two, and then we would like just like fill it in, and then we would go drive around the town and just like give lambos around.
Just stop by, because we can't stay for long because we have so many houses to go to.
And that you know, it's also part of that unified moment of like togetherness and all that. Like not just in the sense of us and the relatives or friends or, you know, neighbors, but also with the person who sells the bubur lambo. And even sometimes with the people who buys the bubur lambo. Sometimes we'll be like, you buy from Kak Syam, and then we'll be talking about that, and then in some funny way we feel connected.
Yes.
I think that's the thing. Maybe the thing is that you realize that you find these similarities. Like you feel like you're different, then you find a thing. I mean, that's the reason why communities exist. You know, like, or like,
they have that. What we mentioned it in the
physical versus virtual community.
So you live under this one same similarity.
Category. So
that you share. So if you just live on the same basis that you live in the same location, then you won't feel connected. Exactly. You could feel connected.
Yeah, we all
But
live
then
in the
you
same
do not
place.
realize the many
how similar you are.
yes, how similar you are.
Despite the differences.
So with all these practices during Ramadan, you have you it's easier to see, and
plus the more you know someone, the more you can relate to them. Or at least feel for them. And thus during Ramadan, because you spend so much time with each other, like I mean, like for us, when during non-Ramadan, when before COVID, now it's like a bit sporadic, but then like we would go to the surau for our prayers sometimes, but then we only like stay there and eat and everything like on Friday nights. So when they have like a Yasin recital ceremony, so that's the only time when you really talk with each other. During Ramadan, you spend every day meeting each other again and again and again. You feel closer, and when you feel closer, you can feel them more, or like relate to them more, and etc. And then that makes it, I had another point, but I've lost it. This always happens. This happens every time. I don't know if it's like pot sleepy, but yeah.
We had a breaking of fast and Tarawih event last night, which
I was going to go there. So like okay, so like that was like the part about like the bubu and like giving away, and so like I think like that is a what do you call that, a responsibility that parents or caretakers or siblings, elder siblings have, which is to like teach
the younger ones
about that value, and practice and principle, etc. And because like you can learn, if the neighborhood is practicing that at any rate, you can somewhat learn it from observation, but it's, also really would be like direct, like even more, etc. if your parents are actually doing it. So that is like a role that we should play, like even if we are not parents or elder siblings, to friends, or like
to your neighbors. I mean, in our neighborhood we have like a bunch of tiny children who go around. So oftentimes back when our father was still alive, he would when bring them to the mosque together when they're like walking. Sometimes they're already walking to the mosque, and he like entertain them, talk to them. That bridges the gap. Even not during Ramadan. That bridges the gap between these older people and the younger people, so they will feel more excited to go to Ramadan because these are their friends as well.
I mean, essentially the gap between elder people and younger people is just simply that same thing of like different. So it's just that you feel so different from each other, you don't really see like where you guys fit in. So when you see the similarity, you're like, oh, you're not so different after all. It's just that with age gap, there's so many physical differences that it feels even wider, But for some people, economical differences is wider. It's all about like the person's perspective in the end.
And going back to that, those kids who go to the mosque, when they feel excited, they will bring their friends to go there as well, and their friends would want to follow because they are happy going there. So they want to be. That's why I mean the interesting thing about this year's Ramadan is that not really sure why, but then there's like a surge of the amount of young children going to the mosque, and not just during the Ramadan, but before Ramadan when the mosque just opened. A lot of them are coming to the mosque constantly and istiqamah, like committed to going there, and it's just really really nice to see them, and they're happy to go there. So they're not like forced or anything. So it's and so that makes them. They really feel like a part of the community with all these other people.
So like parents' rules and everything. And then talking about like like friends of like parents. So because we have been like both of our parents have been like like bringing us to meet their friends and etc. And we spend so much time with them that we can relate to them and we can befriend them. So thus we we like ourselves feel like close to them, and like as if we were friends. And then eventually now, I mean, our mother's friend, our mother is still alive, but then our father's friend, even though he's passed away, well, some of them we don't meet as much anymore,
but a lot of them,
but then
we still
his university friends,
university
definitely
friends,
his like that first corporate company that we remember that we talked about in the other episode the other day, etc. Like those friends we still talk with and like meet. Like in fact, one of our neighbors is his workmate.
Yeah, his staff actually.
Yeah, because he was like the supervisor. Yeah, his staff.
Yeah.
So like there's still that moment of like like knowing each other, and we definitely get closer during Ramadan, because during Ramadan we like share kurma.
I mean, in general, in the first place, we just meet more often. We meet.
No, not him exactly. Just in general, like you feel like in the first place during first Ramadan, you'd be like, let's send them all Ramadan Mubarak, and then you start a conversation. You know, so that's like in the first place that happens, and then after that, you just keep on like communicating. And then it dies out after Ramadan. But then, like there's...
It won't die after Ramadan yet because there's Eid.
Yeah.
Then we
so
wish them Eid. And then, sometimes you're like, oh, come to my house for this open house.
Sorry, we can't attend COVID.
Well, so we were talking. We talk more, after that. So, but then after that, it started to die out. But still,
there's that
happens.
Moment, So, and then also, a really cool thing, like just last night, we went to our mother's father has a very close friend, and he invited. Well, he and Ahmad goes to the same mosque for their Friday prayers, and then he invited Ahmad. He was like, I don't know what did he say.
Jemput datang buka puasa esok.
Yeah. Okay. So and then he says like to bring like the whole family. And then he came home and tell us, and we're like, oh, that's super cool, because like I feel like when you lose your grandparents, so it's really nice to have these people who you remind you of them, and who sometimes know your grandparents more than you do. Like you may know certain aspects of your grandparents more, but they know other aspects of your grandparents more.
Because they lived with, worked with them, being friends with them for like
this friend specifically is like friends met with our grandfather. Like they met during their university days, and then
London.
They work in the same field.
Yes.
So, they know each other for a very, very long time. In fact, he was one of the few people our grandfather recognized after he grew old and got like dementia.
Yeah.
Like when you show him a picture, he's like name, like so. Like he recognizes.
Even though that guy's already old, so because the thing about our grandfather is that when he had dementia, his memory was like.
There's like a gap. In his memory, he didn't remember like a few of his more recent decades.
Yeah.
He remembers the older years better.
But he remembers them.
Yeah, very well. And it also depends on when.
So he remembers that guy despite looking quite very different, when he's
not
young.
That much different, but yes, there's a big difference. Yeah. Especially when you have dementia. So so he was a very close friend. When we eventually we found out that he and Ahmad goes to, and then our father went to the same mosque during Friday prayers, and then we talk, and then we got close with each other, and then like now we're like very close, and like he is like almost like a grandfather figure, because like our grandfather has passed away for a long time, and then he invited Ahmad to his house for like iftar, and told Ahmad to like invite the whole family, and so we're like yay, and then we went there, and then like it was like really nice because you feel like a remnant of like like part of something, and it reminds you of your grandfather, and all that, and it's like really, really beautiful and nice, and like so Yeah, that's like a really, really beautiful moment, that I just like really appreciate. And like, I think we should
do it more often.
Yeah.
In the first place, just do it more often.
Like, one is like on the friend side, also on the you side.
Yeah.
Like, because like you do go and meet him and talk with him, like often, so that also creates that relationship. Kawahida says, just respect the elder. He's a really, really nice person, and like, I think he's also well respected because he has really nice, like, he's nice in general, not just like to people he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, he's like nice, he's humble, and he's like kind of like well off, and like comes from like a respected family. But despite that, he's super like humble and down to earth.
I mean, when he goes to the mosque, he's like talking to the people, like, he's
everyone.
And he's like, oh, he knows a lot of the people who live here, and like, just send my regards to your wife. And like, oh, how's it? Oh, you already have a new child. So like, he's always in touch with the community and not
like,
separated. Like, even all the time. So that's really nice. Yeah. I mean, we miss our grandparents as well. For.
Wait, you call your grandmother Popo? That's interesting. That's very interesting because not many people call her. We call our other grandfathers. Is it that person? Our grandfather's friend's wife, Popo, or is it our one of our grandfather's friends' wife? We call her Popo. I get confused between one person we call Popo, the other person we call something else, but something similar. Also, like, So one of them we call Popo. So
I always get confused with the whole.
But yes. And like, sometimes I wish that we can have like a long discussion, like in-depth talk with our grandparents and parents, friends in general. But yes, back to the point, all of these many actions like really closes that gap in between our communities. And I think the thing is that, back to the whole point of like, collectively you can do so many things. When you close that gap, that is how and when you can, like, a lot of these things can be done. Because like, if everyone collectively does something individually, it's an effect, yes, very good. But if they do it together, it's even, because
the more people that are involved helps each other. Like, it contributes. It boosts each other and affects each other even more within the circle, and then they affect the outside even better. So it's like magnified.
And like, sometimes some things are not as effective.
I
mean, and this helping each other out, no, it's always effective. But then sometimes it's like less. I mean, okay, like, you can actually take a scenario when it's less effective. Sometimes when people are giving food to places, they just leave the food there without like working together with the people, how many people need the food. That in the end, sometimes there are extra food that are not given away, and those food goes to waste, when there still are people who not
need it elsewhere,
or even at that place,
or even at
but not because it's not well coordinated. And so
so that's why it's important to work together.
When
you work together, when you work together, like, networkly, basically, like, you're not coordinated and like, you don't just individually. So you will know what's going on, you will know what's the best to give, to where and such. So it just goes smoother.
And more effective.
Yes.
So that's the thing. Like, the cool part about, like, when we come together, we close that gap, we know each other, then after that we can do even more beautiful things for our society, like just working to help each other out, and etc. Like, that is like the really, really, really nice aspect of closing that gap. So yeah, in fact, if we are to, this is not at all scripted. I am just casually opening my phone. But you know, like if in fact if we were to read from the Quran in Surah An-Nisa, like ayat 36, it a translation from Abdullah Yusuf Ali, you can read that it says, serve Allah and join not any partners with him, and do good to parents, kinsfolk, orphans, those in need, neighbors who are near, neighbors who are strangers, the companion by your side, the wayfarer you meet, and what your right hand possesses, for Allah loves not the arrogant and the vainglorious. So, you know, like, I lost my word, but then, like, you know, like talking about like how you really should like get close to each other and, you know each other and like help each other out. Like that is when you can together because there's so many problems in our society, and we point our fingers to so many problems, like you know, we talk about this and we talk about that and we talk about that, but I think essentially, even if some of these things are true and some of these things are solutions to the problem, until you can come together and work together and know each other and close that gap of differences, despite the different social standing or etc., like
it will still end up.
No, not it will still. No. You're in the flow. But you know, when you know each other and you close that gap, despite the differences in social standing, perhaps only then can you actually solve it. Because sometimes you come up with the right solution, but you can't solve it because you cannot work
together in the first place. Yeah,
and it doesn't work when you don't work together. Because sometimes people believe about like just getting rid of the whole social, but then the thing is that there are some of these things are in place because of like order in society, and like there just simply are people who you respect more, who have like a big role to play. You know, that's just how it works. Our Silat instructor, he gave the analogy of rojak, acar buah. You have the sweet fruits, you have the sour fruits, you have the crunchy, and you have the soft, and you have the sauce. They're all different, and they shouldn't be the same, because if they are all the same...
And sometimes when you're eating the sour ones, you don't like it on your own.
But then together, that is what makes it an acar buah. And if they're all the same, well, they go well, like, you know, they are one, but then, you know, it like doesn't create that diversity and like...
It cannot create that taste.
Unique society, you know. So there should still be those differences. Each culture or each occupation, you know, like the teachers who are, you know, of a more respected stature, all of these differences, or even the economical differences, like as long as no one's suffering, you know, some people may be more well off than the other, though, you know, there shouldn't be any suffering. So if you're well off, you should be helping others out. But then, like, you know, despite all these differences, and it's okay to have these differences, the point is you should realize that we're all humans and we should all work together. That's the point. Yeah, that's it. Kawahida says, one of the positive thing, it will affect another person. The wave of positiveness, like, so yeah, exactly. I always read comments halfway through. It might be confusing for people. The wave of positiveness is like tsunami if everybody do it too. Yes, we can solve the dispute we face more smartly and effective, unified nation. Exactly. You know, like the first point of like how it affects other people, because like often actually people who how do you say it, like are more I can't find the word, are less likely to help another person out, are like more put off by the idea of helping another person out, are facing a bad time. Either they are not in a good state, or they are being oppressed by certain people, and etc. So they get frustrated with people, and they're like, you know, they're just like working on survival for themselves and their family and their children, especially children. So they are less likely to help another person out. But then if people always help them out, they would like always remember how
people help
them out, and how that helps them, and
so
they want to help others out too.
Give back.
Yeah. So sometimes even they're talking about like parents teaching their children or elders or caretakers or siblings or even neighbors, like just someone showing that example. Sometimes people are like, oh, they remember that person always helped person out, even if they're not like in the bad state. They'll be like remembering like that person, like talking about how that person isn't like doing so well, and etc. So you're like, after that person, like, okay, actually I'm like trying to use the analogy of like our late father. There's this relative who he always helped out, and then after he passed away, our mother was like, I wonder what he's doing. It's not like just because our father did it, because like our mother also knows that person. They're like in fact
they were also related.
Yeah, in fact they're like more closely related. But then like that's confusing. But then essentially the point is that our mother like remembers like he must be doing like, because he remembers how, like, because she also helped him when our father was alive. Just that because our father was the one who communicated with him. Okay. Our mother and our father both was like helping him out. But then when our father was the one who communicated with that relative. So when our father passed away, we didn't communicate, and our mother like kept on remembering and remembered how his father is very close with her father. They're like very good friends and when they were younger. So she was like, like really uneasy with this, and so we just looked up the number in our father's like contacts, and we're like, okay, and we contacted that guy, and then like so what's my point? Oh yeah, the effective the wave tsunami, how it affects another person. So like I mean, because our father was the one in contact, like it's not that our mother wouldn't have helped him out otherwise, but our father was the one in contact. So so
and that was how drives like us to,
that was how that was how like we know that he needs help, because our father was in contact with that relative. So when our father, otherwise we may help otherwise, but we didn't know. Like our mother specifically, didn't know. This is also confusing, but you get the point.
And then that in result encourages us, or like makes us feel like wanting,
and like especially when our mother like always like talks about like helping, like remembering him and everything, like it pushes us, like sometimes we're like, we know she's not doing well financially, so but then despite that she's helping him out. Even neighbors, like like she's always talking about giving food to that person, so that pushes us to like even if so my point is that even if you are not on the receiving hand of the help, and that is not the reason why you're helping another person, sometimes it's just by seeing other people helping another person, and you feel
seeing the thing happening, observing the thing,
so and then you help, and then you helping helps the other person, and it makes it tsunami or domino also. Yes, I agree, we can solve it. The second I was like going to bring up that point exactly, like, because it's true. The thing is that what we've been saying, every step is a step, every individual work is a step, and that's cool on its own, that's super good on its own, but don't laugh at my quote, it's my favorite quote, although it's not like well crafted, but collectively it's super good.
No, I'm still laughing at that. Every step is a step.
Okay, so but then at the same time, when we talk about like closing gaps and bridges and etc., it brings to the point of like despite the differences, because like sometimes like you can feel like the difference with people and etc., and it's like hard to find a friend. And about like having friends, it's also cool to be mindful of who you are. Like, it's good for you to be friendly with everyone, but for like those close friends that you have, the friends that you spend your time talking with, discussing with, all the time, it should be like, you should not just, we're friends now, oh cool, we have a similarity. Because sometimes I remember when I was younger, some of my friends, I'm only friends with them because we share a certain similar aspect of our life, it's like similar, and then we just talk about that aspect, and it doesn't really grow. You don't help each other to grow, you're not growing, like a totally not scripted take. If we there's a hadith narrated by Al-Muhasibi. I think It's okay. Never mind. Ignore what I said. The Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, your best friend is the one who, seeing him, reminds you of Allah, speaking to him increases your knowledge, and his action remind you of the hereafter. Like, that's like hadith of here's how to find your best friend tip, kind of thing. But then but then that's the point.
Yes.
Essentially what you can see is that a person who helps you grow, and ideally who you help them grow too, because how are you going to be their best friend if you're not helping them grow? So helping each other grow and work out. And then eventually, if from that closing the gap we can help people, and then everyone becomes better, because when you close the gap, you motivate positiveness, etc. You kind of help them to grow, and then they grow, and then they essentially help you growing by perhaps making you realize that the fact that you're helping them out, without them you won't help anyone out, kind of so in some sense you help each other to grow. And if eventually, because that's the large friend group, eventually when you help each other out and then you become a really cool society, eventually everyone becomes cool. There will still be differences, and you won't be friends with everyone, super close friends with everyone, but you would be a community. And then for the very close friends, the best friends is the people who help you grow up. Yeah, I think that's the cool part about us siblings. We are very close with each other because we're always reminding each other of our weaknesses, and sometimes most of it is our elder sister. She will compliment our strengths. She would be like, oh, you're so good in this, oh, this aspect of you I appreciate. We don't do that often, which is actually not a good thing, because you're supposed to also remind each other of the strengths. But then that also helps us grow, and then we become, I think that's the thing. That's one of the reasons why we're very close. Yeah.
I think that's about it.
About closing the gap. Often we feel like it's we took the title of closing the gap because it's also on the literal sense of when you're in Jumu'ah of prayer, closing the gap of the saf, etc.
Dapatkan saf ini.
So that's basically our second episode of Ramadan Reflection. Thank you so much for joining,
tuning in.
Yep.
Watching, however it is.
Yeah, and it's really nice to discuss reflect these things with you. It helps us. You guys are helping us, and we are helping you guys, and then we're closing the gap. Yeah.
Closing the gap between
distances.
Yeah.
Our elder sister is distance away from us. And then I don't know if she's watching because she's having internet problems.
Yeah.
She's at UIE and the campus is having internet problems, so she hasn't been able to watch live. But so
we need to improve the technology.
If she actually accidentally overslept, and then she didn't realize it's 9:30, so that's why she missed it. In that case, that's very unsupportive. But so thank you so much for joining Ramadan Reflection. It's cool. We hope that it's nice for you guys, our discussions are helpful and fruitful, etc. Because it definitely is for us. Even though we are just talking, but your insights, and also just actually sitting down to talk about these things, sometimes we might have not talked about it otherwise, or might not have seen a point. So having this discussion helps us see a point in all that. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope that you
will have a blessed Ramadan throughout the rest of Ramadan.
And then we'll see you guys again next week, same time, same day, 9:30 Sunday morning. And we will post as usual, we'll post the title. Oh wait, side note, we originally wanted to publish this podcast on Spotify, but we're having some technical issues, so at the moment it's just on YouTube. If we ever can solve that, we'll upload it, but at the moment it's just on YouTube. So sorry. And we understand how that can be sad, but life, it happens sometimes. Anyway, see you guys next week. We'll post the title on our social media, and so stay tuned. Bye.
Bye.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.